I wish I knew this before ayahuasca. Let's dive in for another daily dose of the Worth the Fight podcast. Ayahuasca has meant so much to me on my path and my journey, my healing journey. It's informed my path. I put out, that 90% of my addictive tendencies fell to the wayside after that first weekend retreat with ayahuasca. It has helped me free myself from Bullshit Incorporated, from the pain in my heart, from my past, from the childhood trauma that was in my nervous system. It was a visionary experience that helped inspire a vision of the path ahead and how I can best utilize and best actualize myself in this wonderful human life that I have and this human experience, I should say, that I have. And it's helped me to envision the best version of myself. And that's powerful, because if you have a vision of a better way or a better life or a better version of yourself, then you can put in the work in the day-to-day. And you can embrace the struggle and the pain and the discipline and the parts of the human experience that are not fun. You can embrace, because it's a worthy struggle. It's a worthy fight. And so I'm, again, just inviting possibility about how ayahuasca might inform your path as well. I've had many, many journeys from 2014 to 2018. I had sat with Mother Ayahuasca 16 times. And I had one journey, I think it was back in the summer of 2024. So I've had 17 total. The phone is not ringing much anymore. I'm not feeling the call to it. I feel so good in my daily life. My original intention was to heal the childhood trauma in my nervous system and to free myself from this loveless life that I was living in Chicago, and a loveless job and a empty love life, and just wasn't feeling any love, any joy. And I struggled with alcohol, and I would do that to drink to numb my insecurities, and I had a lot of pain in my heart ultimately that I didn't address, and I didn't know how to address. And ayahuasca showed me how to do the work. And that inspired me to write a 308-page psychedelic integration book. So if you're curious about ayahuasca, pick up a copy of Worth the Fight, Acting for a Better World, A Guide to Spirituality, Psychedelic Medicines, and Overcoming Trauma. You can find that at worththefightbook.org. I map everything you need to know about ayahuasca, and I share my experiences at Floristral with Visme and Nicole in Costa Rica, and just my insights and how I've integrated it. Because when I had the ritual in late 2014, early 2015, I struggled immensely when I came home. It was so challenging. So I was thinking, geez, people are going to really, really have a hard time with psychedelia here. So I've got to write a book. I've got to get my skills up. I've got to work on the craft of writing so I can disseminate this message of how to best navigate this path so others won't struggle like I did and won't be potentially on the medicine wheel. Because if we're not doing the integration, you're going to keep going back to the medicine, keep going back. And there's some people that'll do it for hundreds of time, where it becomes a lifestyle. And that was what I saw when I was traveling with a backpack for 18 months. I saw a lot of people that were drinking a lot of medicine. I was doing it too, but they weren't doing much of the integration work. They weren't meditating in the day-to-day. They weren't journaling their thoughts. They weren't moving their bodies. They weren't working on a breathing practice like Wim Hof to regulate or modulate their nervous system. And so nothing was changing in their life. So I got really curious. I was thinking, wow, this is a little bit dangerous. It's like people are getting after this medicine and not much is changing. They're kind of whining about the same challenges and problems. So again, that was a big part of my motivation to write the book and to share and to just bring awareness around this. Because ultimately, I had to travel out of the U.S., out of Chicago, to go down to Costa Rica to have this ritual. Why the heck did I have to do that to go heal my childhood trauma and my depression and my addiction? Because of the pharmaceutical companies, duh. And because of the racket and the incredible market share and how they will block these medicines, and that the problem with psychedelics, and Michael Pollan put his finger on it in his book How to Change Your Mind. The big problem is the business model. It's not a good business model. Ultimately people have the experience, they heal, they get better, and that is not aligned with the pharmaceutical model of having people take these pills ad nauseum for sometimes 5 to 10 or 15 prescriptions, and they're taking them for 10 to 20, 30 years or longer. It's crazy, absolutely crazy that we allow this to happen, and we allow this to happen to our veterans. And we have a veteran suicide tragedy and epidemic, and 22 to 40 veterans kill themselves every day. That was a big motivating factor of me to write Worth the Fight, is to share my story to the degree to which it tells a larger narrative, and ultimately so I could share the service work that I was doing with veterans exploring Veterans for Entheogenic Therapy. There is Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. That's VETS. That's another acronym. That's the incredible work that Marcus and Amber Capone are doing for our Navy SEALs and Special Forces. But this was the work with VET and Ryan LeCompte, and getting this message out. Felt it was my calling, and this is my work, and we've got to share and let our veterans heal and push this edge. And if they can heal and get right after war, a real life hell in the Middle East, then that's going to send a big signal to all of us here. As in 2026, well, 2019, when I wrote the book, most people are struggling. People are struggling. So when our veterans can heal and get right, they can show us how to walk this path with integrity. So I've done a little bit of a roundabout way to set the stage here about ayahuasca, and kind of a macro view of what's happening, how people are healing, how people are utilizing this. What is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a brew that comes from, it originates from Peru. It's from the Amazon, and it's the ayahuasca vine and the chacruna leaf. And a shaman or medicine person, thousands of years ago, it's thought, up to 4,000 or 5,000 years ago possibly, had found that when you put these two botanicals together, you're going to get one hell of a tea, a visionary tea, a curative tea, a tea that has, it's a plant medicine that has an intelligence that is beyond words. We don't, ineffability is a hallmark of the experience. We don't have proper advanced enough language to describe what this medicine is. And that's wild to say, but that's the truth. And again, you have people that have these experiences, and they're having deep communion with their higher self, some commune with God, and it's a profound experience, enough to scare people straight and on one into straight behavior, into walking a tighter line. I know I was struggling with alcohol and unhealthy behaviors and eating all sorts of crap, and just had a lot of toxicity that I purged during the ritual, and I had a lot to do. So I kept going back to the medicine. It seems like every 6 months or so I was doing the 6-month cadence, but I wasn't really integrating the experience. So that's why, again, I'm motivated to share the message to, hey, people, meditate, breathe, journal your thoughts, move your body, get good social connection, get good sleep, and have purposeful, meaningful work. And that's going to be your medicine. And there was a time when I was writing the book Worth the Fight, when I was thinking about going back to another medicine ceremony, and I had this aha. It was a deep, deep moment of grace. Maybe it was a communing with the medicine, I don't know, or God, or my intuition. But nonetheless, it was a very potent moment where I had this, again, moment of grace of, hey, be the medicine. It's not about, you don't have to come back and drink more ayahuasca. You have to be the medicine for others. Hey, dummy, you are the medicine. Be that for others. You've drinking enough medicine for a lifetime. Go serve. Go share. Go do the hard thing. Go tell people about this as a means of an alternative path to healing, to personal growth, to getting out of the personal hell of the mind. And again, it was very, very clear that my work with the medicine was done at that point, and that it was more about serving others, showing up, being the medicine for others. And again, disseminating this message, inviting possibility, inviting people that there is a different way, a different path that's more aligned with holistic health, more aligned with vitality, feeling good in our body, creative vision, vibrant health, all of it. So again, ayahuasca, the ayahuasca vine, the chacruna leaf, we drink it in a tea. We're doing this in a community. It's typically done when I was in Costa Rica, 10 to 20 people, sometimes 20 to 30 people. There were ceremonies on a Saturday where it was communal, and there was like people coming in from the villages, and there might have been even more. And we would drink this tea. Everybody's got their kind of yoga mat station. Might be like a mini mattress, and it's we go over pretty strong agreements on the front end. Get really clear: why are we here? What are we doing? And again, kind of ground rules for the experience and for the ceremony. So it's very intentional, very reverent, and people are there to heal. They're there to process past emotions. They're there to free themselves. And again, this is, I wrote in Work to Fight that this is intuitive, almost like a laser guided missile. We drink this medicine and it's going to go straight to that one thing or those things that we try to avoid, almost like a laser guided missile. It'll go to that trauma or that, whatever that ruminative thought or something that's heavy on our heart. It's going to bring that from the back burner of our consciousness to the front burner so we can work through it in the process, almost rubbing it in our face for the 6 to 8 hours. The best way that I can describe the experience is the curtains of our subconscious mind peeled back for 6 to 8 hours. It can be the most terrifying experience of your entire life, but also the most liberating and the most beautiful experience of your entire life. And that was my experience, where it was, again, terrifying and in the most soulful of manners, but it just felt like something I had to do. It felt like something that is in our DNA. The work of Brian Muraresco, I'm going to try to get him on the podcast. He wrote the book called The Immortality Key. And his position is that very likely psychedelics are at the root of all major religions. And possibly the ancient Greeks were utilizing and drinking the kikian, which is closest to what we would call LSD right now. And they were doing that in a community format with a rite of passage, a yearly rite of passage that everyone, I believe, but the slaves participated in. And it was a big kind of collective reset, communal collective reset, which is wild to think about that. And of course, that's in the ancient world, and there's people that write a lot about that. But there's this field called archaeochemistry where they're going back to the chalices. They're going back to these ancient artifacts, and they're saying, hey, we have a high degree of certainty that there was a psychedelic beer or psychedelic wine in these chalices. So stay tuned for more on that, and for more of that being established in our in the zeitgeist, in our collective consciousness. As I believe that this is not an aberration, but we were coming home to something that was very much a part of our evolutionary past, but has been repressed by the Catholic Church. It was posited that at 390, they started burning all the books, and we shifted from a matriarchal society because the women had too much power to a patriarchal society, and now we got what we have. But there was a time when women had the power and they were running the show. But these medicines apparently got too much. It was too much to control, and so on. A little bit of a digression. Back to ayahuasca. So you've booked the retreat to Costa Rica. Wonderful. Floristral, Visme, and Nicole, they do a wonderful job. There's a lot of other reputable places. I encourage you to get a firsthand recommendation. That's really, really important here, because this sometimes goes sideways. And it's important because there's a lot of like neo-shamanism, and there's people that have had one experience, and then they are now a shaman, and they have the audacity and the goal to serve medicine to people when they've only had a few experiences themselves. Instead of going to the jungle, having the proper rite of passage and ritual or trajectory of learning to master the medicine, so they can master the energies, so they can have the better results of people healing. So you want to make sure that you have a firsthand recommendation of somebody that's been doing this work, and they've got a good, strong track record. That's really, really, really important. Then you want to follow their directives and their dieta. That's the diet. Typically, it's a week or two of being really, really mindful about not eating meat and cutting out fatty foods, oily foods. Certainly, the day before and the few days before, getting really fastidious about no salt, no sugar. And we want to come in a really cleansed state. Also, some might encourage you to not have any sex for the week prior or 2 weeks prior. That was something that I was abstaining from, masturbation or sex for the weeks prior, and I noticed that my mind's eye, the experiences were a lot deeper, with the creative energy coming in fully primed. And so that's something to think about as well, and so we can again just be more receptive to the energy of the medicine, because it is kind of nuanced. So part of it's really in your face, but part of it is very nuanced at the same time. So again, we're coming in this in a more cleansed space. So it's not, I mean, it is important, but I will tell you that a funny story, back in 2014, 4 or 5 days before I had the ritual, I didn't take this very seriously. I didn't know what I was getting into, and I had McDonald's for the last time. And let's just say I haven't had McDonald's ever again since then, because I was throwing it up during the ceremony 5 or 6 days later, and it was horrible. And it was a horrible experience. Cosmic Drano is what I call it. The ayahuasca is like Drano. It's getting into all the nooks and crannies and detoxifying ourselves from all this crap that we eat and all the crap that's in our culture. And at that time in my life, I was drinking a lot and eating a lot of crappy food. So that was a really, really painful experience. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, big drinker. My baseball team was the Brewers, and I'd gotten sick a lot from alcohol, but this was very, very different. And this, again, is a harrowing journey, and it humbles you, and literally your hands are in the dirt. And but it changes people. It changed my life, and I'm living my dream life. This is 10, 11 years later. I'm in the best health of my life. I feel so gosh darn good every day that I'm here on YouTube, putting these vibes out to the collective and inviting possibility. And, I'm a microdose mentor. I've guided over 200 people through my magic and microdosing mentorship program, working with psychedelics at a smaller level, but preparing people for the journey. And I'd say 25% of my clients end up going to have the ayahuasca ritual, and they have incredible journeys, and they share this. I've seen it time and time again. And, it's really important that we prep, we have reverence. I do have a source outside of Chicago that holds incredible space as well. So if that is something in the proximity, I was very kind of earnest about, hey, everybody's got to travel out of the country. You got to go to Costa Rica. You got to go to Peru. And had an experience where a friend of mine was struggling with alcohol in 2024. So it's like, hey, do you want me to go to ceremony with you? And we did, and we had an incredible weekend, and that was a deep letting go experience and an opportunity for me to sit with the medicine. It had been 6.5 years, and it was a deep, beautiful meditation where I was just connected to my breath, and so grateful. I didn't have a breathing practice back in 2014 to 2018 when I was doing a lot of the deep medicine work prior. Perhaps a little bit. Maybe I trained with Wim and his team in late 2016, so there was a little bit of crossover. But nonetheless, the breathing practice that I have now, it made a big difference. I could really breathe through and sit through and feel a lot of discomfort, and it just come back to the breath. So I do encourage people to start to practice their breath, to journal their thoughts, journal their intention, to meditate. Meditation is going to be really, it's going to pay major dividends when you're in the ceremony. So you're already used to the chaos of the mind, because it's going to be, you have ayahuasca and it's going to be chaos times 100 or even 1,000 or even 1,000,000. And it can be really intense. So you want to have that ability to come back to the breath and back to your intention. And yes, so this is, from my heart to yours, what I would direct my clients on. Again, getting really clear about your intention. Why are you going? Why are you engaging arguably the most potent medicine on planet Earth? And, when we book the trip, I believe that's when the journey begins. I'd talked about some profound experience. I thought I was losing my mind in my bathtub at 1212 West Roscoe Street in Chicago, the 4 or 5 days before my first ayahuasca journey. And it was just, the ceremony, the journey had begun when I submitted payment. That's when it starts. So that's when we're training for the ceremony. We're training for the journey. And for me, I knew that this was real. I'd paid money. I was going, and I was going to go find out what this is. And I just knew at a soulful, deepest place within that this was the right call. It's hard to explain how that happened or how that was. This was not accustomed to. This was very foreign for me. But I was. It felt as though if I didn't follow this calling, I would be a coward in the eyes of the Creator, in the eyes of God. And so I was like, hey, I'm gonna trust this, and I'm feeling really good, and this feels like the right call. And the folks over at Johns Hopkins are doing incredible work, and this keeps popping up into my field of awareness, and this just is. It feels like this is the direction to go in. And it's 2026 now. This is very much a part of our zeitgeist, our collective conversation. It's still super important to be earnest, to have proper planning, to give thought and intention and intentionality to this, so we can get the most out of it, and to have some patience and some tenderness, because it can be really shocking to our systems, and it can really rock us in the most incredible manner. So having a little bit of tenderness and patience on the integration phase, it's very likely the neuroplasticity, the rewiring that's happening after, it's probably happening for 1 to 2 months afterwards. I know that there's fMRIs where they're scanning the brains of people and showing the interconnectedness after a psilocybin journey is happening still. There's still connections being made as if the ceremony was happening. Probably not as intensely, but 3 weeks later, there's still neuroplasticity benefits that are happening even after the ceremony is over. So I presume that this is possibly, again, a month to 2, possibly longer. I'm not sure if we have that data, but that was my experience, is that, whoa, hey, I'm feeling really good for a month or 2 afterwards. So it's really important during that time that we're leaning into the discomfort. We're doing our practices, just showing up the best that we can. We're taking time to meditate, taking time to journal our thoughts, taking time to connect to our breath, to move our body, and giving ourselves some TLC, some self-care, self-love, getting more sleep, etc. And that was how I addressed this path when I came back in 2015. I just had my heart blown open, my mind blown open, and this most incredible soul journey. And I was determined to. I had marching orders: meditate every day. I don't know if there was the marching orders to journal my thoughts every day, but I'm sure I was doing a lot of journaling. But it was meditate every day, find mentors, find conscious mentors and community that you trust. That was the big marching orders, and that set in motion ultimately my freedom from corporate America. I was still stuck in bullshit incorporated, and this allowed me to free myself, to travel around the world, to find my soul's calling in terms of the service work that I'm here to do, and the work with advocating for our veterans amid a mental health crisis and suicide epidemic, and helping and how that work of Worth the Fight has ultimately shifted into the Magic and Microdosing Mentorship, although I'm still very much vocal for veteran healing, and I will always will be. Shifted a little bit towards priming prosperity pathways, and the brand is evolving in real time into prosperity pathways. So thank you so much for listening and for tuning in. Again, when it comes to the high dose, when it comes to ayahuasca, set and setting is supremely important. Ayahuasca is done in a community setting, in a ritual. People know why they're there. They're there to be broken open. They're there to feel the deepest depths of the human experience. It's unconventional healing, but it's real and it works. And if we put in the work with the integration on the front end and the back end, the results can be phenomenal. So again, I'm just inviting possibility. I'd love to hear your experiences. If there's anything I missed around integration or best practices on how to get the most out of the experience, please do put in the comments below. We're out towards this edge together, and I want to make sure that this is something that if there's people that are coming to this channel for guidance around ayahuasca, I want to make sure that we've got all of the I's dotted and T's crossed, as this is, again, a sacred ritual, sacred initiation. And again, from my heart to yours, love and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in. Till tomorrow. Again, so much love. Thank you.